Welcome to 4 marketing secrets that every growing gym and every growing fitness studio understands. Here are the 4 secrets right up front. Reactive selling is not enough. It will take some outreach marketing to get people into a funnel so you can sell to them. Next, a purchase happens in stages. You don't just place an ad and you got a customer. There's some steps in between. 3, what's measured becomes manageable. And 4, for greater strength, you fix the broken places. Now those might sound mysterious or they might sound super simple, but as you see when we go along, they're going to be extremely useful when it comes to walking more and more new members into your fitness studio or gym. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Arthur Kronos. I walk hundreds of new members in the door for gyms and CrossFit, health clubs, martial arts, yoga studios, Pilates, Zumba, and dance studios. I'm real easy to find, and I would love it if you'd connect with me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Google+. You can also find me on Amazon, and if you just throw my name into Google, it gets real easy to find me. Today's goal, the reason we're having this webinar, is so that you can get more new members. If you want to add new members, if you want marketing on autopilot, if you want to surpass competitors, they're popping up everywhere. If you want to exceed them and outrun them and outstrip them, if you want to struggle less, if you don't know how to attract business, you're in the right place. If you don't dare allow the staff to try the selling because you need every single one, you're in the right place. If you want to get the maximum result from your marketing, you are in the right place. Now, if you learn what's in this training, you can bring dozens of new members in the door, and you can do it week after week. Guarantee. Now, you might feel skeptical. Well, how can this be different from articles and blogs and webinars I've seen before? You might wonder, how can you manage your gym or fitness or dance or yoga studio and spend time on marketing too? And how can you get new members? How can that go on autopilot? Well, here's the difference. Most past articles just talk about parts of the marketing sequence. They say, go get you some Google AdWords, or do social media marketing, or SEO rules. But these articles have little thought about how these things work, or how they fail, and there's no information usually on how to manage them so they work best. Now today we're going to discuss a lot of how-to. We're going to figure out the most likely methods to reach your new members, how to create a sequence that works to get paying new members, and how to create and fix any missing or broken parts until the whole thing rocks. Let me be frank, because while you're watching this training and while you are listening to every single word, if you're not committed to getting new members, then we're wasting time, because this is nuts and bolts, brass tacks, hands-on, how-to information for fitness studios and gyms that want to grow. Now, what growing gyms and fitness studios understand: reactive selling is not enough. A purchase happens in stages. What's measured is manageable, and for strength, you fix the broken places. Let's start with reactive selling is not enough. Here are some common problems I see over and over and over again. It's not just in the fitness field, it's in all small businesses. Most entrepreneurs going in underestimate the requirements and need for marketing. They picture the production side. Now this makes sense. Mike has been repairing Fords since he was a kid, and he's been working in shops repairing Fords, and he thinks, I'll open my own shop. What does he picture? He pictures repairing Fords. So new entrepreneurs tend to picture the production side, and usually they get that right. Entrepreneurs are nearly always brilliant at their core technology, but they struggle with a shortage of clients, or customers in the case of Mike, or new members in the case of fitness studios and fitness centers. They struggle with a shortage of these new members, usually forever, and here's why. Now this may look kind of businessy. It is. A typical business can be organized into 4 chunks or branches. Executive, some guy runs it. Over on the left, there's marketing. That is what powers the business if it's done right. Now, admin's all the stuff that guides and coordinates. It includes things like filling out government forms, sweeping the office, things like that, buying supplies, all the stuff that has to be done to coordinate stuff, paying the phone bill, installing phones, all that stuff is admin. And production, that's what actually creates the product or the service. Now, there may be exceptions to this, but I've seen precious few. Nearly all businesses fit the bill. Now, if you're a one-man shop, well, this video may not be completely useful for you, but even if you're a one-man shop, then you may wear all four of these hats, but you'll still be spending some time executive, some time in marketing, some time in admin, and some time in production. Now, the problem is that most small businesses' org chart look like this. Here's a guy, the admin they usually get right. Over on the right, they do lots and lots and lots of production. And over on marketing, there's not very much marketing at all. So it barely powers the business. Now, here's what I mean by power the business. It's a lot like a car. There's the engine. It powers the automobile. There are the controls. They guide and coordinate where you're going, how fast, or if you're slowing down or speeding up. And the drivetrain is where the rubber meets the road. That's what makes it do something. So you can see they correlate very nicely. The executive is the guy sitting in there. The engine, that's the marketing. It's powering the vehicle. Administration, that's the controls that guide where it's going to go. And production, that's what makes it go someplace, to get someplace, to arrive someplace. Now look, if the engine is underpowered, how can your vehicle carry you to your destination if the engine, first of all, it's too small, like a Volkswagen engine in a Greyhound bus? Next, it's constructed kind of random parts and sort of stuck together along the way. And yet, that's how many people build their marketing system. The answer, how can it get you to your destination, was it really can't. It won't get you there. It fails. This is the cause of endless struggle in small business. Now, what's on this page is not 100% true. You could really quibble it, but it's going to be useful for us to split out marketing versus selling. It's going to be handy and useful to think of it. Marketing is going to consist in this discussion of methods used to outreach to the prospective new member and to attract him or her into a conversation. And selling is going to be a structured, persuasive conversation to sign that prospect up into a new member. Now, that means that for our discussion, all marketing is outreach. Coupons, offers you get in the mail or send out in the mail, newspaper, radio, television ads, billboards, bus signs, the signage on your shop or your gym or fitness studio is often one of your best sources of new members because it's out there reaching out visually to the people that drive up and down the street. A gym or fitness studio which may think it has no marketing usually has signage, okay? Or marketing could be AdWords on top of the Google search results. It could be ads on websites and emails sent out, Facebook or those kind of advertising or banner ads. All those are outreach, and all of them, they are marketing. Now, what is your plan? What's your plan for your marketing system or systems? How will you reach out and touch 100 new members and get them to walk in your door? Because if you want 100 new people to come walking in the door, you know you're going to have to reach out and touch 100 new people you don't know yet before you can even talk to them. How are you going to reach out and touch them to get them to walk in your door? And your selling system. Once you're in a conversation, how will you persuade them to buy? They're in a conversation with you or your staff. What's your plan? What's your system? Now, here's where we've got to. Proactive, not reactive selling, proactive outreach marketing is usually the only way to get a large number of new members to join you month after month. You could get some members, a few, almost by accident. But proactive outreach marketing is usually the only way to get a large number of new members to join you and to do that month after month. That's section 1. Number 2, a purchase happens in stages. Now, that might have seemed real obvious, but we're going somewhere with this, so stick with me. A purchase happens in stages. Now, I've noticed, and you've probably noticed, maybe you thought about it, maybe you didn't, that processes are often a sequence of events. For example, a phone call. You pick up your cell phone, you type in some numbers, or you click on Bobby, and then the cell phone company notices that you've done that, and they do their magic and connect up to Bobby's cell phone company, and they sing a ring out to Bobby, and he presses a button called answer call, and now the two of you are talking. There has been a sequence of events. Roasting a turkey. Got to come out of the refrigerator and put it in a pot, maybe mix up some stuffing to go in the middle, roast it at whatever degrees for however long, and then take it out, let it cool a little bit, put it on a platter, carry it to the table, and then eat that baby. Dating and marriage. Okay, maybe the first step is flirting somewhere, and you kind of liked that, and so you said, hey, why don't we go to coffee sometime? She says, yeah, or he says, yeah, whatever that is. And then you do that, and you have a good time. It isn't awful, so you say, well, hey, what about dinner and a movie? Or something more creative. And you like that, so you do it again and again and again, and finally one day you're thinking, man, I should not let that person get away from me. And so you propose marriage, or trick the other person into proposing marriage, and then you don't, the world does not collapse, and so sure enough, you get married. That's been a sequence of events. Hiring an employee. Usually you put the word out or an advertisement, and people call you, and you might have some screening process, you might have an interview, you might have some tests to do. You hire them provisionally. After a while, you decide, hey, you're a keeper. Again, a sequence of events. Getting dressed. Let's say you're a guy and you sleep in your underwear. You get up. First, you got to find your pants. Now, one leg into the pants, the other leg into the pants. Got to find your shirt. Put on your shirts, button everything up. Now, you're almost dressed. Only a few more details and you'll be ready for the world. But again, they're all a sequence of events. Here's why that's useful. Let's take the telephone call and break it down. Now, the sequence of events, the things that happen in time. You tap make the call, you tap the number pad to select the address. A phone number is an address of a telephone. The cell phone company does several steps. They broadcast a ring signal. Your friend taps answer call, and you have a conversation. Now, here's your cell phone. You pick it up, and you tap on Bobby's picture. You dial Bobby's number, and the cell phone company notices it because they've got a transmitter somewhere around you, and it watches your phone or listens to it. The tower is connected to a building where they got computers and stuff. And once they know that number, they know what they have to do to get the call to Bobby's phone. So they're connected to, let's say, Bobby's cell phone company, and they got a building and smarts and a transmitter, and it sends out a signal to Bobby's phone. Ring-a-dingy, ring-a-dingy. Bobby presses the answer, and now talking. Isn't life wonderful? Okay? Now, I might be belaboring this point, but let's look at this. Often, processes are a sequence of events, but notice they are also often a sequence of locations. Every one of these is an event, a sequence of events in time, and it's also a sequence of locations. Here's why that becomes important. Now, before we look at a specific example from marketing, let's consider what we've got so far tells us in general about the process of marketing and sales. This is a generalized marketing model. There are 5 steps or blocks. They may have many little smaller parts, but 5 main blocks from planning to payoff. Over on the left, planning. That's where you figure out how to match the offer you figure out who is the target new member I want. Let's say you had a general purpose gym and you wanted to get more rock climbers in. Well, in this case, you might be trying to get rock climbers, or you might be trying to get busy moms, single moms. Anyway, you got a target new member, and you're going to make an offer, and you want to make sure that you match that new member to your offer. They got to go together. And you need to do that before you go leaping into action and going off in all directions. This lets you place a reasonable or a calculated advertisement to outreach to the right people. The offer attracts the right people, but that doesn't mean they're your customers yet. Usually you have to lead them through at least a few little steps. We'll look at that in a minute. The marketing word for that is a funnel. Now, in some businesses, the telephone may not be a matter of importance, but for many fitness centers it is. Often you might get a call on the telephone. If so, then the goal is to get an appointment with that person to come in, to get them to commit to an appointment. Because why? Because if they have an appointment, more of them show up. When they do show up, you show them around, you maybe give them a day of exercise or a free session, it depends. But the idea is to convert what it was been a visitor into a paying member. So there's 5 steps. We'll come back to that. Here's a marketing example. Now, I'm not going to use gym and fitness. I'm going to use something older and back in time. It makes easier and clearer examples than electronic stuff that we use a lot now. Way back when, I ran an answering service, first in San Francisco and then in a number of cities around San Francisco, and then I bought voicemail companies and stuff. We operated them all the same way. When we started out, I knew that the place we needed to advertise was the Yellow Pages. Because the Yellow Pages, there was no internet at that time. The Yellow Pages were where people would naturally look first if they were looking for, a bailiff's bondsman, an out-call massage, a plumber, a locksmith, a tow truck, or an answering service. So I knew we had to put something into the Yellow Pages. There was only one Yellow Pages, so that made it simpler. I knew that was the planning. That was the big planning. I knew that we would have to have an advertisement, which was an eye-catching advertisement, because if they opened the Yellow Pages, there would be all my competitors, and some of them had a lot more money than me, and they had bigger ads. How would I catch the eyes? Because some people say your headline is the most important part of your advertisement. Well, there is a step before that. You got to catch someone's eye, because if you don't, and someone else catches their eye, it doesn't even matter what's in your advertisement. Now, the funnel would be that the person would then call. I make some kind of offer in the advertisement. The person would call. We had telephone operators. They answered the call. Now, they needed to keep the person on the line and connect them with our salesperson. We had worked out a script that was very, very effective, and so the salesperson would go through the script and fill out a sign-up form, and when they got to the end, that was a new client. They did the phone selling, and then that sign-up form with all the details would go to where the operators are and where bookkeeping are, because now we had a paying member or client. Now, this was my eye-catching advertisement. Now, you may be laughing. Did you really? Yes, I put this advertisement in the San Francisco Yellow Pages. And I will tell you this. When you open the Yellow Pages book, it did not matter what kind of ads the competition had, the other answering services. It did not matter how big their ads were. Your eyes went immediately to this duck. And you'll notice that I used 85% of my space just to grab their eyes, because I knew if I didn't do that, nothing else mattered. It didn't leave me much space to give them an offer and to tell them what the next step was, but there's the offer. It's the top line. It was going to be an inexpensive answering service. And this ad, this doesn't look highfalutin. This looks like it would be a budget answering service. And what are they supposed to do? They're supposed to call that number, and yes, that was our number in San Francisco. Now, let's go back. Let's take a look at this. What if one step is missing? If the marketing and sales process is a sequence of events and locations from planning to payoff, then what if one of the events or locations is not working? Then what happens? Well, let's take a look at this example. Let's suppose that the salesman doesn't answer the phone. The ad's working. It's got an eye-catching advertisement. Someone calls, the operator answers. They try to put them through the salesperson. They don't answer the phone. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. That's a sale we didn't get because that one part was broken. If one step is missing, if it breaks anywhere between A and Z, the whole process will not work. It is a broken process, and you don't get new members. That's why it's really important. Now, what do we do about that? Well, the first thing is that only that which can be measured becomes manageable. Everything else becomes mumbo-jumbo, unknown stuff, voodoo, or guesswork. So if there's a sequence and it could break here or there, let's measure along the way. Here we go. What if one month you get a lot of new members, the next month you get very few new members? Why is that? Well, you don't know. You have no information about that. You can make wild guesses. Phase of the moon. There was a convention in town. There was a lot of hepatitis going around. You're just making stuff up. You don't know. No measurement. With no measurement, you have no clue which part is not working. Well, for measurement, there's two parts to it. The first part is to find out what are the key numbers for your business. Now, the reason I say use a graph is because if you have a long string of, let's say, okay, well, let me give you an example. That'll make it clear. When I was running the answering service, I measured a whole bunch of stuff and looked at all the different graphs, and then to figure out which graph of what would give me the best single answer to how we're doing. We doing well? We doing poorly? And I discovered that I could graph how much money we came in each month, and that was good, or each week, but the number of members that we had turned out to be the best and most useful predictor. Because if that number of members that we had kept going up, everything else tended to work out. We had money, we didn't have, things went well, okay? But if that graph went down, we started struggling. We had too much payroll for the number of customers that we had or the number of clients. Now, someone might say, well, what if it's just even? Well, here's what's true. If it's just even, then you're going to go along and everything seems okay, and then one day something breaks. Maybe you got 3 machines break at the same time, or some of your staff breaks. 3 of them are out with some kind of terrible flu, okay? Something will break. And when something breaks, you got very little margin to fix it. And so that's going to be a down graph. What this really means is there isn't any level graph. It's either an up graph or it's a down graph. If it's a level graph, that's just a down graph waiting to happen. Now, why bother to put them on a graph? And here's why. If you had the same numbers, but they were just numbers in a column on a piece of paper, these graphs, they go up and down. They're jiggly. The data is jiggly. You don't have the same number of signups every single week. And so you're looking at a column of numbers, and some are bigger, and some are smaller, and some are bigger, and some are smaller. And if you got enough of those numbers on the page, you can say, oh, the numbers here at the bottom of the page are bigger. We must be growing. But the thing is, a human just isn't well equipped. The way our heads work is not well designed to analyze up or down trends from a column of numbers, but we are well built to analyze trends real quickly when they're on a graph. If you just find your key numbers and graph them, you'll see. Now, once you have those key numbers, okay, you know what they are, then you want to think about something that's called benchmarks. They're points along the way. So to attain improving key numbers, you want to know what are the sequential steps in the process that get you those key numbers, that makes those key numbers good. Now let's take an example. Back to that answering service. We wanted to know how well the ad's doing. What can we measure? Well, we can measure how many times does the sales line ring. We want to know how many times it's answered by somebody, because what if it's ringing but not being answered? What if we're losing sales just because people aren't answering it in a timely fashion? That's a place you could, these are all the places where the sale could go to hell, okay? That's the deal. How many times does it ring? If it doesn't ring at all, that means the ad's not working. And I'll show you an example of an ad later here in this talk that didn't work at all. How many times is it answered? It's really important. How many times does the operator patch it through to the sales rep? And now in a gym, that might mean how many times is it answered and it gets to someone that can do a sale to make an appointment to get them in. If it gets to that person, how many sales forms are started? Because remember we used a sales rep with a script. How many sales forms get started? And how many sales forms get all the way to the end? The guy gets all the way through the end. And then in the end, how many paid up new clients do you have? Okay? Those are 6 places you can measure that series of events and series of locations that we discussed earlier. Now, before you get too impatient with thinking, well, this is answering service and I don't run an answering service, I've chosen it thoughtfully, and we do have a very detailed marketing example that is available for the owners of fitness centers and gyms and all those people in the fitness business, and I'll tell you about that as a little later. But for now, I'm choosing things that make simple, clear illustrations. If it's obvious to you, well, it succeeded. Okay? Here are daily benchmarks, things you'd want to example. Now, why do you want to go to all this trouble? Here's why. If you do this, you can tell where the process is broken. Only then can you fix a broken process. Now, we're going to come back to the next step, which is how do you then go about finding and fixing the broken places? First, assuming that you're measuring the steps in the process, the sequence of events and the sequence of locations. If your success number at that location goes low, if the key number at the end goes low, find the previous step that went bad and fix it. If your key number at the end goes up, then for God's sake, find the previous step that improved and do more of whatever that was. Okay? So if the key number goes down, find the previous step that went bad and fix it. If the key number goes up, find the previous step that improved and figure out how to do more of that. This will fix broken parts. Now here are examples about how to fix it, okay? There's the same thing, the 6 measurements. And let's say that the sales rep is not answering, okay? Now, that means none of these will happen. So that week, you had a low number of new clients, new members. And so you look back and you see that the sales rep number, how many times he answered, it's low. For gosh sakes, go in there and find out what Jake is doing. What's going so wrong in there? Get it fixed. If Jake won't do it, get some new sales rep. Now, let's say he's doing fine. He's beginning the sales forms, but he doesn't seem to be completing them. What's going to happen? Well, you're going to have a low number of new clients that week. That's a fact. So you go back and you say, well, wait a minute. The line rang, it was operated, went to sales rep, he started all these sales forms, but look, they're not completed. Find out what's going wrong. Probably a problem with his script or the delivery. Okay? You look at the end point, and then you go back to find the low number that caused that to happen. And then how to fix it becomes obvious. And here's why, because only the complete process will win. Only if you have all the steps working will you have the rapid growth. That's the only way you can have hundreds of new members walking in your door. Now, when you put it all together, if it's not measured, it cannot be managed, and you're at the mercy of unknown forces. If it is being measured, You can manage it, you can repair it, you can improve it. That's why you want to measure. Now, not every outreach will work, I promised you. Yes, I did send a guy in a duck suit down to the financial district in San Francisco, and nope, it didn't work. The measurement, there were no calls at all, told us to scrap it. And the guy that was in the duck suit, he was real happy to hear that. Now, plan, experiment, measure, refine. When it works, do more. When it doesn't, fix it. This is exactly how, it's really this simple. This is exactly how you develop a reliable, repeatable marketing and sales process with new members coming in month after month after month. I promised you the 4 secrets. Reactive selling isn't enough. You need outreach marketing to bring enough people into the funnel, to get them onto your phone, to get them into your location so they can become paying members. And next, that happens in stages. In fact, many things in life can be seen as a sequence of events in time and a sequence of locations in space. Now, to make it all manageable, you got to measure the results at those locations in space and the results of those events in time. Then you can manage it. And when you see your key numbers drop, you go back and find out which one of those steps was low, and it becomes obvious what you need to fix. It's not a mystery. It's not guesswork. And then you just fix the broken places, and it grows stronger and stronger and stronger. It really is that simple. Now, I promised that I would reveal 4 marketing secrets that every growing fitness business understands, and I believe I've done so. If you go and talk to fitness businesses that are growing and look at what they do, you will see that you're doing that. Now, I do have a detailed system of marketing, step by step, which goes all the way from planning to the advertisement, through the steps of the funnel, to the telephone, to someone walking in the door so that you can close the sale into a new paying member. I do not publish this for the public. That would not be fair to the paying clients, that where we use this, we run this system for them so that they get hundreds of new members walking in the door. But we do have it, and I have created a demo. If you'd like to see a complete system for the fitness business, if you own a gym or a fitness studio and you'd like to see this working system in complete detail because it's fully revealed and you can get all your questions answered, we can do that because I have this demo. It reveals a complete walk new members in the door system showing all the steps in order. And you can have that demo. I will share it with you if you own a gym or fitness studio. The next step would be yours if you want to do that. Because if you own a gym or fitness studio and you want to see the working system in complete detail that can walk hundreds of new members in the door, what I want you to do is reach out to me and request a private showing. Now see that down there at the bottom? Voltos.us and then the word schedule. What you do is just go to that site. That'll take you to a page which will show available times in which the demo will be available. And you just sign up there, and I'll be delighted to share with you in complete detail the system that we found super effective at walking hundreds of new members in the door of fitness centers of all types. And I hope to see you on the other side.